Jimmy McAllister found the net. Goal for Wednesday.
Terrific goal by Taylor.
Chris Waddle, are you going to have a crack?
Oh, he does, and he scores. Still Glenn Wheeler. Aidan Flint wins the
Is there time for a winner?
Hello and welcome to Wednesday Tie-Dye Podcast. This is Extra Time. I'm joined this week by Mr. Dom Howsam. I've invited him back after his last appearance. Dom, it's always good to chat with you. How are you, mate? All good?
I'm not too bad, yeah. It's nice to, see Wednesday getting some points on the board and still clocking up the embargoes. So some things never change.
Well, the ratio is 1 point to 1 embargo currently. We've got a game tomorrow. Wages haven't been paid, so it's we need to get at least a draw to keep that ratio going, or else the embargoes might kind of go over that 1 to 1 ratio. But we'll see. We'll see how things will pan out. Now we're going to be talking matters off the pitch once again, Dom. When will this ever end? We're going to be talking embargoes, as I just mentioned. A third, fourth, and now fifth embargo has been put on the club in the past week. We're going to be talking about unpaid wages once again, and also this impending loan debt that is going to be due Wednesday, I believe, this week. Not only that, but also get your thoughts on kind of the whole situation as well. If you are watching this live, then do get in the comments. I will try and read as many out as I possibly can. We've got Annie here. We've also got Philip. We've got Steve. We've got Sam. Jack says, "Hey up, James. It's Jack from Morrison's earlier. Good to meet you, pal." Yes, I walked out of Morrison's and Jack was there. At first, I was like, he just said, "Hey up, James." I'm like, mate, I have no idea who you are, but Jack, I've nice to put a face to a name, which is always good. We've got Gary. Liam's just saying regulation 54.1, non-payment to players soon. That is coming. Chris just says, doom. That's never going to leave you. Never going to leave you, that one, Dom, unfortunately. Dom, let's get straight into it, really. Embargoes. The club are now subject to 5 embargoes. Not that any of them matter in terms of, the actual transfer, not being able to sign any players. But I think the reason as to why we're under these embargoes is quite telling. Future financial information, secure funding, HMRC reporting, amounts due to another club, and then the final one being just simply football creditors. Dom, they're starting to really rack up now, and I think just taking a step back, just looking at those regulations that he's already fallen foul of, player wages will be another one, as Liam said. It doesn't have a plan. It doesn't have any financial security, i.e. any money in the bank, and he doesn't have any, the fact that he doesn't have any money in the bank means that he can't now pay any bills that are now falling due. It doesn't look great, does it, Dom? I mean, that's putting it mildly.
No, it doesn't for Dejphon Chansiri, but by all accounts, it still seems as if he's going to continue to cling on and that he's got no intention of selling. And I think what's scandalous, the embargoes, all of them, it's highly embarrassing. It's a terrible look on the club. But we've had one statement from the owner of the football club while this shower has been going on since June. And it's totally unacceptable and smacks of a man that, when times have got really tough and Wednesday are in a dark place off the pitch right now, he has just abandoned ship, so just gone into hiding, and that's totally wrong. And people rightly aren't standing for it, and all we've seen is just amazing efforts from the trust, yourselves, other leading Wednesday podcasts, what the fans have been doing, starving them of money. Those pictures all over social media, and what you talked about on the show over the weekend too, just amazing of what the fans are doing, the lengths they're going to starve him of money and to not give him any more of their cash. And it's like you were saying in the show over the weekend, of the great debate now is going to turn to, if he's not going anywhere, how many fans are going to actually buy and stump up for season tickets next year? And that is, as you rightly mentioned, that's the biggest thing that fans can fork out for. And so if fans are already seeing it, look at the crowds, nowhere near 20,000 at the weekend. We know what happens there. It's how many people have already purchased season tickets. And just crowds are going to dwindle. And it's sad, as then actually what Henrik Pedersen's doing with the first team. I say the first team, how many first teamers there are there? But again, he is doing so well with the toughest gig in the EFL. That's what it is.
Do you know what really frustrates me as well is when you do take a step back and you look at it, you look at what Danny Röhl did last season, and again, his hands were massively tied behind his back. You don't care what anyone says. There were people at the time saying he has been backed, he's been this, that, and he's quite telling now, like, actually, he really wasn't, yes, he was, he was quite quick to tell us that he'd signed 12 players when he only asked for 6, but, I don't think they were kind of the players.
I'd hold my hands up. I think you've had me on here this year, James, and I was one of those that I probably was defending the chairman back in January of where he provided Danny Röhl with 3 players. But when the opportunity was there, no. I mean, again, it was just going down to the bargain basement, wasn't it? It was going down to home bargains and B&M for rather than actually push the boat out and really go for the top 6 when Danny Röhl had them in position, still going into March. So, no, I mean, I'd hold my hands up now and say that, I would have defended him that he still had 3 players and none of them came in and made a big enough impact.
Well, that's the thing as well. Like again, Danny Röhl, fantastic manager, just didn't have the tools to do a job. And then you look at Henrik Pedersen now and the job that he's currently doing at the moment. All right, we've only got 5 points now this season so far, but it's 5 points that more than I thought we would have at this stage. I thought we would be the absolute whipping boys, and the way that he's got us to be competitive so far, you just kind of think to yourself, what if, not every team has a manager with the same sort of qualities as what we've had, in these last 2, and yet we've had an owner that's not been able to capitalise whatsoever on any of it. He's not giving them, like I said, he's not giving them the tools available, i.e., a budget. And I'm not saying it doesn't need to be a huge transfer budget. I'm not talking let's have Jordan Rhodes Mark II. Just a little bit of wages to be able to bring players in. You see like Harry Amass is doing great guns. You see, other loan players that Danny brought in, Shea Charles being one of them. Being able to attract these sorts of players, but yet we find ourselves staring, well, pretty much almost relegation in the face. I hope it isn't. Of course we don't, but I think that's going to be the start reality as the season goes on. But just kind of going back to the embargoes for a second, Dom, like, have you ever seen anything like it before? I think it must be some sort of record now to have 5 embargoes put against the football club. It's unprecedented times, isn't it? Really,
I can't think of another professional club that have had that many embargoes now, and it's the amount of embargoes that Wednesday have racked up over the time that Dejphon Chansiri has been in charge. For it to be double figures, he's made the football club a laughing stock with the embargoes, and what embargoes are there for? They're meant to be deterrents. They're meant to be the EFL, and this is the EFL right now. They're trying to do all they can with the powers they have to force a change in ownership. There's not much more. We know how limited the powers are, and unfortunately for Wednesday fans watching, listening to this, you all still sort of you're looking at it thinking it's going to come down to the regulator. And them being able to show their teeth. And yeah, they might be in place come November, but then how long is it going to be before they're properly up and running? And even if they make Sheffield Wednesday a case study and they look prime for a case study, if ever a club did right now, for the regulator to throw the book at them and try and force change, it's Sheffield Wednesday. But yeah, it's how long that's going to take. And the trouble is the damage will be done. This season's going to be lost, and this is why it's so sad of all the work and everything that Henrik Pedersen is trying to do to create a really strong bond in that team, and the camaraderie I think is there. We've seen it in the small sample size early on in the season. It doesn't matter one bit though, does it, James? As with all the embargoes, and there's more to come, we know a points deduction's coming, so it doesn't matter that Wednesday've got 5 points on the board. They're getting relegated this season. There's going to be a minimum of, you would think, 12 points. They're not going to get 60 points or as many points as they got last season when they had better players and a stronger squad. And do you know what? This is the week where Pedersen's been really hung out to dry. It's these weeks, 3-game weeks, where they've got midweek trip to Birmingham and then a Saturday early lunchtime kick-off for Coventry. Can't rotate the squad. Who's he got? You know, he's just working with lots of inexperienced under-21 players. And some of them are doing amazing. It's great seeing what Ernie Weaver's doing. It's great to see George Brown, again, from a few matches, come in and do really well. But are they going to be able to sustain that over a 46-game championship season? The reality is they won't. And they need taking it out of the firing line. But Wednesday won't be able to then call upon players who are good enough for the level.
I mean, I've not got the stats in front of me. I've just looked at the last 2 games, but QPR and Portsmouth. We only made 3 substitutes in those games, which I think is quite telling as well. I think it was exactly the same. We made 5 against Bristol City, but we were 3-0 down at half time. So he's kind of got nothing to lose really. But he clearly doesn't trust. I wouldn't say trust, but he doesn't have the belief that the players that you're going to bring on are going to be any better than what we've currently got, and that's obviously down to the way that the club's being run from the top, really. Again, not giving him the tools. I just want to touch on, you mentioned like the EFL, you mentioned the points deductions as well. I think a lot of people are obviously quick to point the finger at the EFL, and I think rightly so as well from a wider perspective. But at the moment, I think the hands are tied as to they can't really do a great deal. This is just how the EFL is made up, and these are the rules and things. And I've been seeing people talking, saying, what's another embargo going to do? But they're just purely just going. I think they're just going through the motions, and it's just he's fallen foul of these regulations, so they have to put these embargoes on the football club. Yes, it's not really doing a great deal, but they just have to keep. They can't just not give us an embargo if we've fallen foul of whatever regulation it might be. So I do agree that things do need to change. But we don't know. I've seen there's a comment earlier on just saying, someone please explain how he's not been done for trading whilst insolvent. That could well be in the motions. There is things about future funding and things like that. So we don't know. The EFL haven't said anything. It might be something that's going on in the background. They might not be able to get in touch with him because, we haven't heard from him. We don't know where he is. I mean, maybe we need to tap up Henrik and try and get his number off him. Maybe you've got his number, Dom. I've seen another one. Dom's one from Hulking Hilo. Dom, one of the few people to get Chansiri to sit around a table and do an interview. Any tips? How do we get him around a table, Dom?
I wouldn't know. It's been a few years now since I had him around the table. But
what was it like when you spoke to him, Dom? What was it like as a person? I've spoke to him. I've sat around the table with him. What's your experience of being kind of like that?
When I was on speaking terms with him, and we would chat regularly, I must admit, I found the chairman good company.
What sort of timescale are we looking at here, Dom, just for reference? Like, what sort of year are we talking?
We're only going back to 2023. We're only going back maybe sort of 2 years ago, where I would say I would have pretty open and semi-regular dialogue with him. But then they got to a point of where we'd have a back and forth over there were things that I would write or I would maybe say on social media that he would disagree with, and so I sort of fell the way of some other journalists and other people close to the chairman over the years, of where he wouldn't always see eye to eye with you, and then so if you sort of do fall. You fall out, or if you don't see things the same way, then there will come a time where you just don't talk as much, and also there maybe been periods over the years, especially in the early years of his premiership, of where I think you would maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. I think a lot of the local journalists would say the same, of where when the times were good, or when it looked as if Wednesday were heading in the right direction, that some of you would say his sort of unique behaviour or ways of running the football club You didn't let it slide, but it would be, you'd look from the outside and go, well, on the pitch, it still looks as if they are trying to invest and go the right way. But it's only with time that you've actually seen that it's been a catalogue of bad decision making.
Yeah, when you go back, Tom, I feel like him or us getting to the playoff final and then the playoffs the season after, his first 2 years, when you look back, that's probably the worst thing that could have actually happened, because it gave him so much credit from a lot of the fan base that, there were signs at the time when you look back. Again, hindsight is a wonderful thing. When you look back and you go, actually, yeah, a bit of a red flag there. There was season tickets being on sale well in advance. You're thinking, wait a minute, like this is not normal. It's now become the norm to be selling season tickets at Christmas time for the following season, which no other football club does. And then there's the prices of things as well, and things have kind of gone up incrementally and over a period of time, that the club now use that as a bit of an excuse, really. Oh, it was like that 10 years ago. Well, but that doesn't make it right. That you've got to compare it to other football clubs. And like I said, I think he just got given far too much credit, and it was very difficult for fans to kind of see over that. I also think as well, I think he is quite a manipulative person. I don't know if you felt that when having spoke to him. His questions, or answers, should I say, are very, very lengthy, and he goes about.
There were times when. It's funny. There were times where, we would have a debate about whatever it was, whether it's on the footballing side or something off the pitch. And there were moments where I actually did feel like, no, he was listening, or he certainly would listen and take your point on board. But then what was always been there at the heart of Chansiri, we would describe him as proud and principled. But I think the other word is stubborn. And so Dejphon Chansiri, it will still do what Dejphon Chansiri believes is in the best interests of the football club. And so that's the thing, he's always welcomed, even in the fans forums, as you know, and in the steering groups. He would welcome, particularly in the early years, when he was talking regularly to the fans, open debate. But a lot of that, but again, fans would then, with time, you'd go, we've gone to the meetings, but then what have the actual football club done? They've taken away the information or listened to the fans, but it's almost felt like you've done that as a sort of PR exercise. But then in 3 months' time, if you rocked up to Hillsborough, have there been improvements or developments in certain areas that you promised or said that there was going to be? And what we found out is that, that's not happened. And so then and it's the same with the forums, where the last 5-6 hours, and then you come out and you think, well, what have we actually learned from that? What was the point of that? So this is where it's when he has tried to communicate. I think sometimes he's just communicated too much, hasn't he? Like with fans, actually, rather than let actions sort of speak for him.
I've been talking to a Birmingham City fan earlier today, which Patreon members can listen to that preview show already. It's already up ahead of tomorrow's game. And one of the first questions I asked was kind of, let's put football to one side for a second, but what's it been like with the new owners that have come in? Obviously, they've had new owners. They got relegated, let's not forget, and then they've come up with 111 points or whatever it was last season, and now we're doing okay so far in the Championship. But he went on and spoke for probably like nearly 10 minutes, and he didn't once mention anything to do with the actual football on the pitch or the squad or anything like that. He was talking about like easy wins that the new owners had done, things like, even mentioned just putting the badge on the on outside of St Andrews, and a brand new illuminated badge, and being proud of St Andrews, the place that they kind of worship, and just like we do with Hillsborough as well, and it was all about being proud and kind of they had a fan zone in the car park that they've erected, and that's kind of where people go pre-match and also after the match as well, and spend time with your friends and family. And it was all about like a feel-good factor and things. And I'm just looking at Sheffield Wednesday and thinking, like it feels like we are an absolute million miles away from anything like that. But this is just a club that we're talking. They've only been there for what? It's going to be coming up to 2 years, I think, fairly soon now, and they've done so much work in that short space of time. And we just have an owner that sticking his head in the sand and. Like you said, we've heard from him once in the past. I've no idea how many months it's been, and that was just to slag off the American consortium.
But too often he's caused division himself, and that's where he's made it impossible for fans to get on board. I really feel as if there's been no part in over 10 years of him being here, coming up to 11 years, of where he's genuinely trying to win the fans over. And you just would think if you take over a football club, you would be looking for easy wins. And
it's not hard, is it, Dom? It's literally not hard. Like,
it really isn't.
The ship has well and truly sailed now. We're way past that point now. Like, there's no point of no return. However, I do still feel, even I want to say, even after when Cisco Munoz was sacked, I still think there was a time there where he could have. It would have been tough, but he would have been able to redeem himself just a little bit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but right, you're talking about the high point of his ownership was 2023, right? A miracle of Hillsborough, and then you win the playoff final, right? And then you get rid of Darren Moore, and you get into a spat with him again. Terrible PR own goal, we know that, and then awful managerial appointment. But you then get it right with Danny Rowe, and this is it. It's been the roller coaster throughout all the time of where you think, oh, okay, so he's got some things right, and then quickly it can turn and it goes the other way. But we went past the point of return like ages ago, a long time ago, where fans have lost patience. They've wanted, I think the majority of the fan base, we know that they've wanted change, but he's digging in. This is this is his character, and this is what he does. But his legacy is completely tarnished it, and he could have left actually with a strong Wednesday legacy if there'd been the infrastructure had been invested in, from the stadium to the training ground to the academy, and those are not wins that fans would see in the short term, but it'd be in the long term. And then you look at down the road, and we don't like talking about them on this Wednesday podcast, but they've got the best training ground in South Yorkshire. Their stadium hosts international football, women's football. We've seen that. We're going back to 1996 for the last time Wednesday hosted international football, and there's a reason for it. It's not just it's not the money side. It's that stadium's been left behind, and Chansiri had the opportunity he should have built the club up. It's easy to say, I know, with hindsight, but he should have done that. There was never the long-term plan or vision. And I will say this: we all in the media for many years were asking about, what are you looking to do in the long term with the football club? You can't just say Premier League. What are you trying to build? Are you trying to grow something here so the club becomes sustainable? Isn't relying on your money. But then he would always turn around and say, I don't believe in plans. And it's there in black and white. Like, you can't in football plan for 5 and 10 years, but other football clubs do. That's what they do. They do business plans. They look into the future, and then they have succession plans, not just for managers. And sometimes it's felt like over the years, managers, you've gone from one style to another, haven't you? Of where it could be Gary Monkball to Tony Pulis, and then Darren Moore. It's never joined up. And then that's before you get to off the field, where there's no chief exec, there's no director of football. It's not a football club set up for success. It never has been under Dejphon Chansiri.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that his plan's written on the back of a fag packet, but I don't think he's even got that either. I mean, with the fans forum back in January, when he got asked that question of where do you see the club in 5 years' time, and he couldn't answer that, he came up with some bullshit excuse saying, we don't know what league we're going to be in, so why can I give you a plan? I'm sorry, the fact was he just doesn't have a plan, and that's evident now. We're going month to month. He's hand to mouth in terms of his money. He's looking constantly for another way to be either someone to lend him some money, or however his dodgy dealings are, to sell some gold or out of some diamonds or pearl necklaces or whatever he's giving out. But anyway, let's talk on unpaid wages then. it's been confirmed today by local journalist Rob Staten that the wages are going to be late for the month of September. I got wind of this last week. I think the players were told last Thursday, I want to say, that probably in light of Barry Bannon coming out and throwing our Dej under the bus. But Dom, whichever way you dress it up, it's just not acceptable, is it? This is going to be the 6th month out of the last 8. Once is a mistake, twice you could say is careless, but when we're talking about 6 times in this calendar year at least, and we have still got another 3 months to go, it's just straight up negligence of the highest order, isn't it, really?
Dave Ponchansiri is really lucky that he's probably got the most positive man on the planet as his football manager to try and keep up the spirits of that squad. I couldn't imagine being in the situation of the players and the staff where, when you're thinking of that communication, to be told sort of Thursday, as farcical as it is, that's quite early by Sheffield Wednesday standards from what we've seen in the summer, where they were told maybe the day before payday. And it goes back to what we've said before of, we don't know what the lifestyles of some of the players are and what their outgoings are. They have still got bills to pay, mortgages to pay, families where they're putting food on the table, and it's just ridiculous. And it's totally not on. And this is why the EFL are trying to throw the book and flex their muscles as much as they can to keep putting pressure on. And that's all the EFL and the fans can do, of where there is a united cause right now of Sheffield Wednesday, of where fans, and you're seeing it with the scarves all over Hillsborough, and I'm just seeing it at the moment. I'm going to be going on Saturday, but I'm just seeing it at the moment on telly. It's still powerful enough, just the images of the scarves of black and gold and everything that stands for.
Even Barney's getting involved in it as well, swinging the scarf around and things.
It could only happen at Sheffield Wednesday when you're getting the mascot releasing a statement and doing that, and it doesn't even feel as if that's like the funniest or biggest thing that's happened in the last 6 months at Wednesday.
Dom, there's a list on Owls Talk somewhere of all the things that's happened. Like, we'll just add it to that list. That list is probably getting longer and longer by the second. Certainly in recent months, it's that we're really starting to.
There's so many books in the Dave Ponchansiri era to come. I'm telling you, Alex Miller's going to be all over this.
The rumours of a Netflix documentary were actually real. This was obviously before Peterborough, and at the time, I remember saying my Netflix must be kicking themselves because we've the miracle of Hillsborough's happened, and that would have been fantastic for the documentary. My God, they have properly missed out big time, because some of the we could be on series 7 or 8 by this point, and it would have been certainly in the top 10 for many months to come. But anyway, that's.
But going back to the wages, James, it's no laughing matter. This is so serious, and it should never have come to this. And you feel for the players and the staff and everybody at the football club, and I know so many people and still stay in contact with a lot of people behind the scenes, and there are some great people who work at that football club who are so dedicated. They've worked there for years. They give everything. They don't deserve to be treated like this, And you've got to remember, players, they're humans as well, and so they've been turning up and doing their job, and trying to stay upbeat and keep going while they've seen players come and go, and the club have just turned into a circus off the pitch, and it's one negative headline after another, and that's the way it's been for a very long time, and so much uncertainty, so the turmoil, it's just unbelievable, and you just wonder what's going to happen next.
Don, what must the players be thinking? No, when you think when it's been going on for so long now, and there doesn't seem to be any light at the end of the tunnel. They're trying to do their best. They're turning up every week. They're putting shifts in. Look,
they'd be so demotivated, James. You would be as well, wouldn't you? You turn up for your job and then you find out, oh yeah, you're not going to get paid for your day's service. That's where I admire Henrik Pedersen, who may well be in the same boat, and the coaching staff that he's brought in. And that's another matter of where it's great that Henrik Pedersen's been backed and has been finally allowed to bring in more coaching staff, and Daryl Verhaven will come in and goalkeeper. But he's just thinking, this is where it just doesn't add up. So where is this money coming from to pay the staff? And but we're seeing late payments again. But yet Wednesday bringing staff in, and then Chansiri turning down bids from American consortiums in the summer, and yet he's not paying and being able to run the football club.
Do you remember what he said, right, Dom? When he turned them bids down, he was saying he didn't think that they had enough money to run the football club. I mean, come on, like literally since that point, he's not paid the players on time more than he has paid them on time, and I think it was just a bit rich to come from him. I think he's just taking the piss ultimately. I honestly believe he's not wanting to sell the football club. I'm sure there's people out there that know other things, but me personally, knowing the little that I know, just looking at it from what, like I said, what I do know, I don't think he's trying. I mean, I think he's making it as difficult as he possibly can. If I said my house is worth £1 million, guess what? Like, nobody's going to buy it because it's not worth £1 million. Like, it's the same thing. He's saying he wants 100 million. I think just to ward people off.
But the question we keep coming back to is, why is he clinging on? Why he $1 million be question, doing this? Yeah, and this is what so many people. I'd love to put that to him as well. Where's the enjoyment now of where he's got a fan base that completely turned against him, and he'll never be able to win them back. He said many, many years ago that the dream would be to pass on to Art, right? So Art's now grown adult, but he ain't going to the games either. Who from the family would right now be feeling safe, happy, wanting to go to Hillsborough? It's a toxic place. It's a really difficult place for the players to play. And it was a good point for them to get on the board and to score a goal at home. But we've seen the record will carry on being really bad at Hillsborough, as it's not in a conducive environment for a football team to be playing. It's a pretty soulless place, isn't it? Of where fans are turning away. They're not wanting to go anymore. There's apathy has kicked in, and Matt's
just said kind of what you're saying as well. The EFL stopped us signing players due to finances, but let us sign coaching staff. I think there's also an element of, I mean, the coaches aren't going to be on as much money as what the players are on. I wouldn't have thought so anyway. But I also think
I don't know about that. So coaching staff, right? If you're talking assistant first team coaches, would be on not that, of course, like a salary maybe of a Barry Bannon, but over the course of a year, I mean, it's still a significant amount of money.
Yeah, but also I think there's an element of kind of bringing the competition into disrepute as well from the EFL's standpoint. What they don't want, as much as they can't help us, they don't want a team just to be the whipping boys of the league, and because it just makes the competition almost a bit of a farce, really. That game, and just whoever plays that team, whoever we play.
But that will come. But when Wednesday, say halfway through the season, James, they get hit with the points deduction. I think it'll come maybe November, December, right? And so the rest of the season will be a write-off. If Henrik Pedersen's still in charge at that point, and you would imagine that he will be, but how is he going to be able to get that team up for games to perform when know that relegation maybe looks a certainty? And so they become the whipping boys in the second half of the season.
Yeah, I think that's why the points deduction hasn't come, Dom. I think that's what they're holding off for. I think because it will happen. This talk of people going on the pitch on Saturday. I think if a points deduction was to happen and we are -10, minus however many it's going to be, And it's almost, I mean, we think it's almost certain we're going to go down anyway. At that point, when that comes, like you mentioned, it is absolutely nailed on. There's nothing to lose at that point. Like, so what if we get another points deduction? So I feel like they're scared of that happening too. And yeah, players down in tools, fans just, it could be. I mean, we think it's horrible now. It could be even worse, to get the Mick McCarthy meme out, as it has been many times already this season.
I'm sick of seeing that meme, honestly. It was
I have
funny
to stop saying it.
For an hour.
I have to stop saying it. I'm just going to read a few more comments out, Dom, before we talk about this debt on the ground as well. Natalie said the club are collecting embargoes like the kids collect panini stickers. Big Artie Shaw says, do you reckon the players are not going on the team bus tomorrow until the staff and players are paid? I mean, I'm not sure about that, but that would be quite the statement. Liam says, but Dej is trying out his best. Alistair says he's the epitome of a narcissist. Matt says that we need to step up the protest now. Without this, we are done. Get the games stopped. Graham says, I know people say there's nothing dodgy in the accounts, but the accounts are so woolly, you wouldn't see it easily. Owen says, just hearing that 2 pigeons are being signed to bolster the mascot squad. And then Matt also says, if there's an emergency fund, then why aren't the players being paid? My understanding, I don't really know how this emergency fund works, but it's about £700 each, I think, for the staff. Now, I don't know where this emergency fund comes from, whether that's something that the club have to put themselves, or whether that's kind of EFL that do that. Matt, I have no idea where it comes from, but it's certainly not enough to pay Barry Bannon's £80,000 a week wages that he's on. So that's probably why they can't do that. Paul says, you can't have it both ways, James. You either boycott his money supply or not. Your only hope seems to be the regulator forcing a sale in November. Yeah, I fully get that. I mean, ultimately, I would rather just have owners where we don't have to have boycotts, and we could go to the games, could buy the shirts, have a pint beforehand, and do everything that a normal football fan would do. But yeah, clearly we have to. We're not in that situation at the moment. Let's get on to this debt then, this loan that he's got. Obviously, it's a huge concern. It certainly looks like it, as far as I'm concerned anyway. He's got 7.2 or 7.4 million pounds, whoever you listen to, that apparently needs to be settled in the coming days. Now, I don't know if New Avenue projects are wanting the whole amount, but the talks are that they're wanting at least some of it. He hasn't paid a penny so far since 2020, and that he's just rolled over the interest. He's been allowed to roll over the interest every single time. Doesn't sound like that option is going to be available to him this point, and he clearly can't pay the wages either. So it's going to be quite telling times, kind of what happens, Dominic, in the next couple of days. People are calling this kind of the D-Day. It could be big problems for him.
The massive issue for me surrounding the stadium and where the red flags were when they did that stadium sale to try and get around the PNS problems that they had is that has to be resolved, and it will come to a head whenever we get to a point where Dejphon Chansiri will be close to selling the football club. What's going to happen with the fact that he owns the ground, and someone's going to have to purchase that off him. And so you can imagine that the dealing and negotiating with Dejphon Chansiri will be anything but straightforward. And so, yeah, no, for me, that's what worries me most in the long term.
Dom, we've just picked up a point at Hillsborough, so the value has gone up by about 10 million in Dej's world. Just like
only
with
10.
We only got a point. We didn't win. One goal, 1 point. So it's only gone up by 10 million. When we get that first win, you could be right. It could be another zero on the end, just like you did with Michael Smith, of course.
Yeah, quids in. Yeah, you got to look at it and think that he's struggling to run the football club and has been for now the best part of 6 months, where the financial troubles have really taken a grip. And yeah, so this is another little sort of milestone, or it's another obstacle, and so he'd be maybe still trying to flog the golden elephants and again try and do some other deals to carry on clinging on to power. So I mean, that's the only interpretation that you can have of the ground, or rolling it over, and so the interest will go up more. And yeah, it's just another sort of facet of where Sheffield Wednesday are. It feels like everything off the pitch it's all coming like really quickly. It's all happening very fast. It's not going away. You can't bury your head in the sand and be an ostrich. And like, it's going to have to get dealt with at some point. And I'm chuckling about it, but it's
you have to, Dom.
Dom, you have to. I never thought it would come to this. I don't think anyone in their wildest dreams a year ago or 2 years ago. I don't know why. Maybe some of us just out there were just deluded, me included, of where I was thinking it'd never get this bad. Where he really can't run the club from month to month, pay staff on time, and we were even laughing it off where, was it a few years ago or the first time where people and staff, but that was it it was like sort of COVID times, wasn't it? Of where that was the first period of where staff weren't paid. But we thought, okay, maybe that's understandable. As he'd said and made it clear that cash flow is a big problem. And he's banged on and on and on and about that. And he'd said long before PNS, we've got to be cautious of PNS. But then I just would always turn around and go, sell some players, sell your assets. Then stop trying to keep the family together. And that's what's frustrated me throughout, of where he's landed himself in this predicament so much by not doing good deals with them being off on the table. He's shown himself to just be naive in the footballing world. He might be a good businessman in his homeland with the businesses, companies he owns over there, but in football terms, he's been caught with his pants down a few times.
Well, so Dom, you hear things coming out from the club, and if it was another football club, you would probably just laugh. The Gold one is the prime example of that. You just think, nah, that's you're pulling my leg. Like, where have you got that from? ChatGPT has that told you that that's happened? Like, it's not something that you would normally kind of associate with the owner of a football club. But I heard earlier today that that apparently Dej had another employee at the club try to sell the Elevate sports brand to another reputable, and by reputable I mean another kit manufacturer in the football league. Actually tried to sell the Elevate sports brand. I mean, I'm not being funny. This is the lengths it is going at to try and raise money, but it's just an absolute laughing stock at the moment. When someone told me that, it doesn't really surprise me at all, really. But I mean, I feel
there will be more stories to come out over the weeks and the months of, again, we're getting more of a flavour of the financial picture, and there will be, you're starting to see it. You had Paul Hurst on a month or so ago where he was explaining his big Times article. And there will be more national journalists and the local guys will hear more stories and more things will get leaked. And this is and you're seeing that as well with some of the stories that have come to light would have been kept in a house in the past when people were getting paid. But people get looser lips when they're unhappy and they're fed up of a situation and a story that just keeps replaying itself over and over again, and we're seeing that, and it's going to continue to happen as well. Of where players are, like I said before, the same as everybody else. If they've got bills to pay for, and you can't expect them to come in for free and play with a smile on their face and pretend that everything's all right when it isn't.
Yeah, Dom, do you think that, kind of looking ahead from where we are now and looking to the point where it all ends, wherever that may be, if it's in a week, a month, 6 months, I've no idea, I haven't got a clue. But do you think people are just kind of waiting in the wings, if there are people waiting in the wings, that is, kind of just for the administrators to move in, or for the point where it gets untenable for him and he literally cannot carry on, to the point where the locks are put on Hillsborough and, we're not opening up for a match day? Do you think people are just waiting for that point to kind of move in and get us at the lowest price possible? And also, I suppose, the point where you don't really have to deal with Dejphon Chansiri, because he clearly seems to be the stumbling block. All we hear from is from the American, the American investment fund that that tried to buy the football club, and they openly came out and said that I've never seen anything like this in my life. A lot of other people have said the same thing as well. So do you think people are just waiting for it to get so bad that they can pick us up at a cheaper price?
Definitely. The worse it gets, then the better it gets for the buyer. Of course it does. And the value of the football club. And this is where it's puzzling too, of Dejphon Chansiri has taken a big wrecking ball to that first team squad and made it one of the weakest now in the division, and add into and throw in all the embargoes, the points deduction, making it inevitable that relegation will happen. So a League One football club will be worth less than a Championship football club. Of course it will. It might not do in Dejphon Chansiri's eyes, of course. But yeah, this is where we're at, of where, it's gone. Part of me is thinking, should we be concerned that it's gone really quiet on the takeover front? Where I think there was that point in the summer, and then at the very start of the season, where you were still getting the names heavily linked, and you had, of course, the takeover bids that were rejected from the American consortiums. And so, yeah, but with a bit of luck, maybe the fact that we're not hearing anything, it may mean it could be next week, it could be a month, that something could get announced. And this is where it's impossible to tell, isn't it? And we just don't know what's going to happen. And it's sort of classic Dejphon Chansiri world of, it's all very unpredictable, and you're second guessing what's going to happen next. And that's what makes this a thrilling but just crazy Sheffield Wednesday world to follow.
That's the thing for me, Dom. The fact that he's not saying anything, the fact that he's not speaking up and kind of, even if it's to tell us just what his plan is, or just to explain himself, explain reasons why things are happening, or even it might, I suppose we'll never believe him, but just to say something like, what the next 5-6 months are going to look like at the football club, and a bit of reassurance. I think the fact that he hasn't come out and reassured anyone says to me that there isn't any reassurance there. It is dark times, and he's just stumbling on from one to another. I mean, he got a get out of jail free card in terms of the Premier League solidarity payments and things like that. The season tickets are coming soon. They will be coming out in the next, I'm guessing, month or so. We're getting very close to the time where it normally comes out anyway. I think, if we can get to that point, and that is whether we boycott them or not, it's still going to be, there's not going to be no one that buys a season ticket. There's going to be some money there. People are going to feel forced into actually buying the season ticket. It's going to be very interesting to see how much he puts them on sale for. It would not surprise me one bit if they were for £350 or something, just to try and guilt trip people into actually buying these season tickets. Again, he's done that trick quite a few times, in pressuring us fans to do something in that we don't want to do at that present time. But yeah, it's just really telling at the moment. The fact that if he had come out and said something, the fact he's saying nothing means that we're doing this, Dom, and talking about this when ultimately we have no idea what is happening, and we're just filling that void with just speculation and rumors and things like that, which ultimately it's just not good for. It's not good for me. It's not good for people listening. It's not good for anyone. Not good for the football club either. What's happening? It's just people talking, but nobody really knowing.
Yeah, and it's the total disregard for fans by not keeping them in the loop as to what's happening and why the football club, from the outside looking in, appears to be being run into the ground, and of where he's living hand to mouth, and he's struggling to pay the bills. Will investment come in from the outside investment, from people that you have spoken to help fund the club. You see, I've always been of the opinion that that was very unlikely to happen. As Dejphon Chansiri struck me as someone that never would want to dilute his investment. So that's why he would never, he'd want to keep complete control. It's either complete control or no control in his eyes. And so that's why he wouldn't want to give any bit of the crown jewel away. But he hasn't right now. It just appears he hasn't got the funds. He just hasn't. And that's where it's just broken relationship. And you just think, I don't know what the end game is. I don't know. And the fear is that we could be here in another 6 months' time, and we could be chatting about the same thing, or in a year. And then what position are the football club going to be in? What staff are going to be left at the football club? What's the team going to look like? It needs new ideas. It needs a new owner to come in. We all know it. It's crying out for, just from top to bottom, it needs investment and someone to come in and to drive it forward. And whoever comes in, and someone will come in, and that's what you have to remember. Right, Dejphon Chansiri will not be here forever. There is hope.
Feels like it though, Dom. I'm just being perfectly honest. It feels like there's no end to it. There's no light at the end of the tunnel.
Not at the moment, no, there isn't. But we're hoping a white knight will come in, and they will know what they're doing, and they will, whether it's Americans or whoever, if it's foreign owners come in, and they're just going to employ people that are football professionals and let them run the football club. Things that we've been talking about for years that Dejphon Chansiri should have done and hasn't done. And then they've been continuing to lurch from one mess to another, and this, that, and the other. So I that's what I think we're still clinging to the hope of that will happen, and that it will be wrestled away from him one way or another. It just can't go on. It can't go on forever. It can't. Don't do the meme. It can't though.
But my worry though my worry though is that he's getting the club to a point where he can not can fund it, but
he's lowered the wage bill.
The wage bill
and the skeleton staff behind the scenes too. It'll be the smallest championship football club when you're looking at the administration side. It would be right up there, and then you could go from the commercial team to the media team. You could go across the board. So a lot of staff over the years have left, haven't been replaced, and then now you've got a first team squad of where it's just mixed with over half of 21's players. So,
that's what I mean. And most of these players as well, I think there's only a handful that have got a contract that extends over the end of this season. So it's going to get to the end of the season and they're just going to walk, and that's it. We're going to literally be left with who we're going to be left with. It's going to be next to no one. We're going to be in League One. The inability to sign players as well, and the wage bill will be absolutely peanuts. It'll be akin to someone like a Fleetwood or a Forest Green Rovers, in terms of how much money we're going to be spending, and even with the limited people that come through the door, even though there is boycotts and things. And I know, Matt said as well, you say pressure, James, it's simple, don't buy one. It's easy to say that right now, and I'm not going to buy a season ticket, but I am not everyone, I'm not going to buy a pint or buy a pie or a drink or whatever at the ground. People still bought them over the weekend. You can't force everyone into not doing that. There's a hell of a lot of people that say, I'm not going to give up my season ticket. I'm on the halfway line. I've had this ticket for 40 years. I know there's someone in the comments that said, I've had a season ticket for 40 years and I'm not going to... I'll read it. I said it last night and I'll say it again. Season ticket holder for 40 years, and match day is the only time I get to spend time with my daughter due to work, as much as it's going to hurt. So even Alistair's not going to renew one, but he's not. Again, it's not absolutely everyone. So he's going to get to a point where, I don't know, this is my worry, that he's just going to be able to... The club will become what we all wanted it to be in the first place, which is sustainable. But unfortunately, it'll be sustainable as a non-league football club and not a club that's trying to get into the Premier League. And that is, I really hope it doesn't get to that point. obviously with the boycotts and stuff, we're starving him of all the money that he needs to even get to that point, and it looks like it's definitely working. But yeah,
I think we're looking at a situation where you have to say, James, that the time that De Chansiri does sell, new owners come in, I think it's setting this period in Sheffield Wednesday's history is setting the football club back between 5 to 10 years.
And you know what? He's done it many times.
Exaggeration.
He's done it many times. He's set the bar so low with decisions that he's made.
And that will be amazing for the new owner. You have to remember that when a new owner does come in, they're going to be taking over a football club where it's been divided, and the fans have wanted change for such a long time, and then they finally get change. And so, I think that's where it's exciting for a new owner to come in and then implement.
It's the easiest
change.
job in the entire world. Being the new owners of Sheffield Wednesday, you don't have to do a great deal. If it's, let's say it comes next season, all you would do is put last season's kit on sale alongside the new season's kit, and people will buy both of them because they've been
back. By the way, crucially, go back to the original badge. I meant to say this earlier. You touched on that as well. I mean, that was another thing where that came in. That was the second year of Chansiri ownership of, and he had enough credit in the bank there, you see, to change that. But again, that divided people. And that's a common theme of his ownership, of where he's caused division, of where he likes confrontation and the infighting, and he won't mind one bit what's happening right now, of where that's what he's used to. That's what he has made at this football club.
Before we wrap up, I find it ironic how he does call us customers, because the only reason how he's been able to continue as long as he has done is because we are first and foremost fans of Sheffield Wednesday. Fans don't just turn their backs easily. Fans don't just suddenly switch allegiances to someone else. I always use the analogy, if I buy a pair of Nike trainers and the sole falls off, guess what? I'm going to buy a pair of Adidas trainers the next time. I can't just do that with a football club. He can do these things. He plays with emotions and things, but people still turn up. People still keep going. But it's obviously got to the point now where, as a strapline says, enough is enough, and people are voting with their feet. And you referenced it earlier. Next season, if he is still here, it's going to be very, very telling, because there ain't going to be many people inside Hillsborough, that's for sure. Dom, I'm going to wrap things up now. Massive thanks for coming on, pal. Do really appreciate it. Apologies, it's all been doom and gloom as it is around the football club at the moment. But hopefully, Dom, we can have you on and talk about something a bit more positive at some point. As to when that's be, I have no idea. But it's been nice to have you on nonetheless, Dom.
Yeah, no, thanks for having us on. It will happen, James. Don't worry. The good times will come back, I tell you.
Do you know what? There was a comment yesterday. I read it out. Saying, "What's happened to this podcast? It's all positive things." I said, "What? Wait until extra time, because that's where I've packed up all the negativity." So if
you left that out when you invited me on extra time, you left that bit out. Outrageous.
Dom, I told you what we'd be talking about, so don't give me that one. I did say what we will be all this sort of stuff, but no. Massive thanks everyone for watching. If you only caught the back end of this, then head over to Patreon and you can listen to the full show. Patreon.com/WTRD pod. We're going to be back again tomorrow evening. My missus is going to love me this week. Tonight we've got tomorrow with a watch along. I'll be with everyone. Join me as we watch us take on Birmingham City. The debate show on Wednesday. I think I'm doing a preview show for Coventry on Thursday. So I've told her that Friday is her day. So she better better look forward to it. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you all tomorrow night. Cheers.